Three games in 2 days over the weekend for the New York Mets, and there's a couple things to chew on this episode of the Queen's Connection, episode number 60, a production of Patton Sports Creative. I am your host, Andrew Patton, joined by the co-host, Corne Hogveen. And Corne, like I said, we got a game Saturday. We had two games yesterday on Sunday, and there were some talking points already from the weekend.
Well, that's always the case. You can talk a lot about spring training. Mostly not. I mean, the big guy probably wants Soto going deep in the first game, but for me, those type of guys aren't necessarily the guys I look at in spring. We know Juan Soto is going to be a good hitter, but there are definitely some other guys that um, made themselves known for maybe a future call up or whatever, or a prospect that needs a good year. So yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, so you mentioned it right there. We'll go back to Saturday, and we'll try to keep these games a little bit more tamed in our analysis compared to regular season games. So we'll try to be more. We'll try to clean that up for this episode. But you said the big thing on Saturday in the Mets 6-2 win over the Houston Astros. It was a split squad for the Astros. So needless to say, this was not the Astros A team or B team or let alone C team. It was more the D squad out there for the Astros. But obviously, it was great to see Juan Soto in his first plate appearance as a Met. I know it doesn't count officially, but he went deep over the left center field wall. That was a big uh, no talking point or takeaway from the big day or highlight from the day. But really, I think you're going to go in the same direction as me, and feel free to elaborate more on this because I know you will. The big thing was Clay Holmes pitching three perfect innings with three strikeouts, and we had talked about, or he had talked about, incorporating more pitches into his arsenal. We already knew he was a power sinker guy, sweeper, and whatnot. Incorporated the four seam towards the end of last season, but um, the thing that's going around recently is his changeup grip. He calls it the kick change. He was sharing with the Mets hot stove crew on SNY, and now it's the pitching ninja has clipped that, and that's starting to make its rounds on social media. And he used it a couple times in that outing, and it was a pretty solid pitch. Now, like we said, it's not Jose Altuve or Christian Walker or any A squad Houston Astros, but he got some hitters to chase that kick changeup. What did you like about that Clay Holmes outing through three innings?
Honestly, everything. I mean, he threw strikes. We know that the sinker, slider, sweeper, all those three pitches are pretty elite. So if he can add a good changeup with that to get deeper into games, he obviously needs to add a fourth pitch to be a good starter. But I mean, the results were pretty darn good. He even threw one to Zach Short, our old friend Zach Short, a right-handed hitter, which looked really well. I also saw a tweet that he also used the cutter a little bit. So um, right now he's turning into maybe 5 to 6 pitch pitcher with the four seam fastball. Four seam fastball for me, it's more giving them another look in certain at bats, because I think the sinker obviously is going to be his main fastball, and that's a great pitch. So that was one too. I also saw a tweet where where they showed the stuff plus, and the I mean the sinker, the slider, the sweeper are all three plus pitches, elite pitches, and then the cutter also had a very high stuff plus. The changeup had an above average stuff plus. So shows that the stuff is there. I'm not really sure how they measure that stuff plus thingy, but it's a stat where you can see that a guy has the ability to do something with his pitches. And another thing that was great for Clay Holmes is getting ground balls. He got strikeouts and ground balls, and that's all he got. Obviously, the lineup he faced wasn't great, but mix slash shapes what Clay Holmes is showing in this outing over necessarily the results, but obviously the results did help.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Um, And I think the thing that was interesting when he talked about the kick changeup grip is he talked about he's a guy who with his pitches, he tends to it's to cut the ball more often. If you saw the clip, because um, no, so I thought that was interesting because that is not because like he was showing before. No, he showed his what his changeup grip is. He says this is what the traditional changeup grip is for a lot of guys, and that's why he kind of has that middle finger a little bit more, kind of like how R.A. Dickey gripped his knuckleball, where he kind of dug that middle finger, or I guess he dug more than a middle finger, but the middle finger was one of those fingers he would dig into the ball, uh, to get that movement, and that's what Clay Holmes was talking about with that changeup, and it worked a couple times in that outing, or well, I shouldn't say a couple times. It was a pretty effective pitch in his 3 inning stint. Some other guys, the guy I was kind of interested in when we saw who was going to be a potential arm coming out of the bullpen that game was Justin Hagenman, and he was the guy who was in the Red Sox organization for a while, never got a call up, and he signed with the Mets this offseason. He got a major league deal. He's on the 40-man roster. So there's obviously something that the Mets, Stearns and company liked about him. And he threw 2 scoreless innings with 2 strikeouts, did a lot of base hits. But that was something because it goes along with what you were talking about. Some of the takeaways from this game are maybe more the depth pieces, the guys who could get call ups and whatnot. And he's certainly a candidate for a call up at some point in the season, just by the fact he's on the 40-man roster. So I really like what I saw from him. Austin Warren, a waiver claim, scoreless inning. Um, and this guy, he did allow a run in the ninth inning, but we talked about who could be the 2025 Deadnell Nunez. Trey McLaughlin is definitely a candidate for that. He had a really good year in the minor leagues last year. A heavy slider guy. That's the scouting report on him. So keep an eye on Trey McLaughlin. Position player wise, anybody stand out to you from Saturday's game? I have someone in mind, but I didn't know if we're going to be on the same wavelength or not when it comes to this. But
No, I have two, so we will probably figure it out. One guy, maybe for I will pick the guy I have the jersey on from. I know he had a bad follow up game. You marked me on it with after my tweet in our chat, but Alex Ramirez, just every time he's in spring training, he shows tools why he could be good. And well, Sunday he also showed why it's not happening so far yet because the tools are there. But then he struck out 3 times yesterday, so it's such a hit or miss for him. But the Saturday game, he was really good. He had the highest exit velo on a batted ball, 107 miles per hour, wasn't out. He also made a very good play in the outfield and right field, showing his speed. He has a good arm. He also threw a ball to second where he showed his arm out. Didn't get the runner, so didn't get into the highlights, but um, speed, athleticism, ability to hit the ball hard are all 3 things that he does very well. So um, the guy is still young, and I know he's been a top prospect earlier in his career. Um, for the Mets, he moved through the minor leagues pretty quick, and now he's hit a wall a little bit in Double A. Um, but he's still young. I think he's 22, 23 maybe. I'm not 100% sure. So still time for him to maybe figure it out at some point. So it's a big year for him. Yeah, what I said. Unfortunately, this point without the Sunday game would have been better. But I liked what I saw in Saturday's game, and yeah, hopefully he had a good spring last year too. So he showed himself there. So hopefully Alex Ramirez can somewhat figure it out to be maybe part of the match future at some capacity.
yeah, that's obviously a guy who was, I mean, once cracked the top 100 on the MLB pipeline, their prospect rankings, and unfortunately, since getting to that Double A level, it's been a bit of a struggle. But 22 years old, I checked that, so there's, maybe this could be the year that the pieces of the puzzle get put together, and he can put a solid season down in the minor leagues and kind of maybe creep back into the future plans of the organization for down the line. The guy I'm that I mean we've already known this guy for a few years now, but it just for me it reiterates like at this position where defense, you value that more than the offense, at least for me anyway. And that's Hayden Sanger. He had a caught stealing. He was 1 for 2 at the plate. He got a hit, which is nice, but his defense behind the plate has always been his calling card, and there was a reason why he was hanging around the team last year during the postseason as that third catcher, and probably he still is the third catcher. Well, maybe not with Jackson Reitz around, but with just because of Reitz's big league experience. But Hayden Sanger, like if a guy like Alvarez is to miss time like he did last year, obviously we're not hoping for that. But or if Luis Torrens gets nicked up and has an IL stint, don't be surprised if it's Hayden Sanger that gets the call up. And he's a tremendous defensive catcher, like I've already said, and a new year, but same Hayden Sanger. He just caught my eye again.
Yeah. Well, Hayden Singer, yeah, what you said, he's a definite defense first guy, but for a catcher that is in your minor leagues, I think that's a good thing. I rather have the defense in the depth chart behind the two guys than the offense. Obviously, you want both, but who has a who has a guy at catcher's position in the depth chart who can do both? That's not often. So he's a good depth for us. If the unfortunate thing happened with one of our two catchers, you at least know that you have a strong defender who maybe Jackson Reach was a good found by you or good noticed by you because I forgot a little bit about Jackson Reach. But Hayden Singer, for me, I think I said it last year at some point that Hayden Singer was a guy for me to have that type of job who could be a decent backup in the future if needed for this ball club and maybe another ball club.
Yeah, I remember when we were talking, late May, early June when the Mets were 11 under 500, and uh, Omar Narvaez was not living up
Mm.
to the paycheck he was getting. We had talked about, if they decide to cut ties with Narvaez, could Hayden Singer get a chance? Because at that point, we were thinking more youth movement with how the season looked like it was going to transpire, and obviously it took a 180 and went the other way, and came within 2 games of a World Series appearance. But um, and we're very happy with Luis Torrens in the organization, and but Hayden Sanger, no good guy to have within the system if one of the two catchers should go down. Also, should note before we move on to Sunday's action, Diego Mascara made some pretty impressive plays at second base. A 20-year-old, still developing. He spent a lot of last year in St. Lucie. Maybe not going to impress you with the bat, but that defense was pretty damn impressive.
There's fun for those guys. That's what spring training is about, right? I mean, Diego Mosquera, a guy I probably have read at some point the name, but it didn't cross my mind at all. When I saw the name, I didn't think, oh, that's that guy. And I'm not a guy that doesn't follow and the minor leagues. I think I do my fair share of trying to follow the minor leagues, but he didn't. He did, yeah, the name didn't sound familiar to me. So then you all of a sudden see that guy makes a couple of nice plays. I think he made 3 nice plays at second base, and all of a sudden you know the name.
Yeah, everyone knows the name Diego Mascara, at least for over the weekend anyway. Um, let's move on to a Sunday's action. We'll start with the game. It was a split squad for the New York Mets. So they found themselves down visiting the Washington Nationals, and they were also home to face the Miami Marlins. We'll start with the game down in West Palm Beach with the Mets and Nationals. They lost that game 11-6, but there were some interesting prospects that got to play in this game. Ryan Clifford started, so did Jet Williams. Jet played second base and shortstop. Clifford was at first base. Kevin Parada eventually came in relief of Jackson Reitz in this game. And probably the big headliner out of this one was Simon Wan, who hit a ball that I'm not sure has landed yet. It was an absolute bomb. Did see some regulars in this game as well. Mostly they were at the top of the lineup: Tyrone Taylor, Francisco Alvarez, Jesse Winker. Um, they got the starts in this game. We'll obviously get to the Nick Madrigal of it all at some point because there is a we'll have to talk about that injury he suffered. But no, just look at this Sunday game down in West Palm Beach. What was your big takeaway from that outing?
I mean, it has to be Simon Wang, right? Guy who got a big international signing bonus. Guy who I've followed since, has had his ups and downs, but overall, I think he has showed his capabilities in the minors. And then, like I said, with Diego Mosquera, Simon Wang probably not known to many Mets fans, although I think he is a name that um, the Mets fans should keep an eye on. Obviously, more than sorry, Diego Mosquera, but I think Simon Wang is obviously a bigger prospect. Um, I think 90 years old, if I remember correctly, and then crushes that baseball in a day where some balls didn't leave the yard because of the wind. That ball didn't went right through that wind, and I think it was like 425 or something like that. But people said it was crushed, and shows the ability that Simon Wang has, and shows he is one with maybe Jesus Baez, the outfielders who are maybe a little bit lower in the system. He's played some for St. Lucie last year. I don't remember if he played for Brooklyn. I thought he also played for the Florida Complex League, Simon Wang, last year. Yeah, Baez played for Brooklyn. So two guys who are a little bit lower in the system, but both have tremendous tools. So exciting to see him do well. Hopefully the other guy, Jesus Baez, also makes an appearance at some point and does the same. But for me, that's the obvious one um, that we got to be happy with.
Yeah, look at Simon Wan last year. His stats: Florida Coast League, 50 games. He had a 796 OPS. So he showcased the power. He had a 459 slug. And you have to imagine he's going to be starting the year with St. Lucie, just kind of based on his maybe the development track record he's showing Dominican Summer League and Florida Coast the last 2 years. So have to think he's St. Lucie bound. Uh, well, I should say, well, because the Florida Complex League, is in St. Lucie. I should say he's St. Lucie Mets bound. I'll put it that way. So yeah, he was definitely a big takeaway. Unfortunately, not a whole lot of great pitching performances in this game. And Grant Hartwig did have probably had the best outing of them all. Maybe he had an inning with two strikeouts, um, but just not really a whole lot to take away from the pitching aspect in this outing. We talked about how the Astros kind of had their D squad playing the Mets the day before. This was kind of the Mets, not super team going down the I-95 to play of the Washington Nationals. But and another note from this game before we head over to the Mets and Marlins game, no, because we talked about Ryan Clifford and how much I like Ryan Clifford. He turned a nice double play in this game, and it's a play that we have seen Alonso struggle with. And obviously, I'm not saying Ryan Clifford's going for Pete Alonso's job. That's not the case for this year, but it shows how Ryan Clifford he could be a good defender at first base. Obviously, there's still work to be done. He's only 21 years old, but he showcased that he can. No, he's not. He could potentially not be a liability in the field. So just wanted to put that out there because you sent the
Yeah,
same message to you. We were texting. You said the same thing to me, and we were that time we were on the same wavelength.
yeah, it was. Yeah, like you said, it was a 3-6-2 double play. The throw to second base where Pete Alonso tends to struggle with, and he made it look easy in my opinion. So that was great to see. It wasn't as easy of a play as Ryan Clifford showed, and that shows that at least that play in a first baseman, yeah, he can handle well. And obviously there are more things being a good defensive first baseman, but it was good to see that he did that well.
No doubt about that. So let's head back up to St. Lucie where the Mets played the Miami Marlins yesterday. This game ended in a 1-1 tie. Um, Max Kranick got to start for the Mets, pitched two scoreless innings. I mean, a lot of good pitching performances in this one. Um, Anthony Gose, a guy we talked about, minor league signee, he had a scoreless inning. So was Kevin Herget, who was a waiver claim from Milwaukee. Jordan Giebert, a name that we might be talking a little bit about as potential rotation depth. He pitched a scoreless inning as well. The one run for the Mets came on a balk by the Marlins, but probably the biggest takeaway from the Mets offense was their designated hitter yesterday. That was Brett Baty, who was 2 for 3. Was the guy who came in to score on that box. So, a guy Baty we talked about as a maybe he's gonna get that infield utility bench role that Iglesias had over the weekend. I mean, obviously it's only 2 games because he played on Saturday as well, but uh, he's off to a nice start.
Yeah, important for him. Made some tweaks in his batting stance. The follow through is now two-handed, not one-handed. So I always like seeing baseball players making adjustments. Um, Beatty, I mean Beatty. It's clear that he has the talent. We saw it last year, even in AAA, where he did well. I heard that in the second or after his demotion in AAA, he also tinkered with his stance and he improved his hard hit rate. We know his eye became better, his defense at third became better. So there were some things he did better, even in his small stints in the minor leagues, but he just hit too many ground balls. So line drives and a little bit more in the air. I think on the broadcast they said that he tries to hit line drives more and not necessarily hit the ball in the air more. I'm all good with that as long as he keeps his ground ball rate a little bit down. I think he went 3 for 5 over the weekend. Um, hit at least a couple of balls over 100 miles an hour. So hitting the ball hard right now. Good things if he is able to maintain a so to speak emergency short. I think he has a great spot or a great opportunity to get that spot. And if Brett Baty is part of the major league roster, I also think he gets a little bit more playing time here and there. You know, maybe play third, maybe play first, maybe even play second. So it's if he's over, for example, Nick Madrigal, um, who's now hurt, and we don't know how long that is. Could be a long time, but just as an example, I think Madrigal is more of a guy who sits on the bench more often, like Zach Short did last year in his brief stint, and Baty would be a guy who gets a little bit more playing time if he makes that spot. So good start for him. I'm still a believer in Brad Beatty, and for the match future, it will obviously be great if Brad Beatty could be the next guy to break out. We should all hope for that to happen.
Yeah, we should also talk about, or I should mention that Luis Angel Acuna started this game at shortstop. He was 0 for 3 at the plate. Vientos got to start at third base. He was 1 for 3. So some regulars in there. Jose Siri was 0 for 3 with a strikeout. Luis Torrens started the game behind the plate after being the designated hitter the day before. Um, those are the first 3 games of the New York Mets spring train action. They're in action again today. They're playing the Cardinals, I believe. It's Blake Tidwell I saw is going to get the start. I don't believe the game is on TV. I'm not sure if there's a radio feed today. We might be
You
just kind
can
of
follow it on Statcast, by the way. It's good to know. So we have some information. Obviously, I would rather have watched it, but hey, it is what it is.
it is
We are
what it is.
living in 2025, and we don't have broadcast for spring training games. Is still befuddling me.
Yeah. Well, that's why I always credit the Mets because it seems like I know I think there's a couple this year that are in Port St. Lucie that they're not broadcasting, but they tend to broadcast a lot of their home spring training games. So I always tip my cap to the folks at SNY for making sure those games get on the air whenever they can. So before we get to a little bit of a game on today's episode, we have to talk about the Nick Madrigal injury. It was early in the game, first inning, um, and he came out for Wyatt Young, and it was reported, I believe, that is a separated shoulder, dislocated shoulder for Nick Madrigal. He's getting an MRI. I'm checking I'm checking Elon's website as we speak. I don't see any updates there right now, so we're still, at least when we're recording, in wait and see mode. But obviously, seems like he's going to be out for a while, and like we talked about, it opens, it keeps the door open, or well, opens the door more, I should say, for guys like Brett Baty or Jer Young or at least Angel Acuna, or take your pick of guys who are battling for that infield roster spot. So, no, it was already something to watch in spring training, but maybe now that since it's created more of an opportunity for guys like Beatty and Acuna, maybe it becomes I don't want to say the headline of spring training, but one of the storylines that is the most intriguing for the rest of camp.
Definitely, yes. I think it was noticeable that Madrigal got started short. I think that clearly showed the intentions the Mets have for intentions the Mets had, I should say, for Nick Madrigal. Um, Unfortunate for him. Please, people, stop cheering for an injury for your player in hopes that Jose Iglesias comes back. I don't see that happening. I think this is more of an opening for the young guys, like you mentioned. So I think that's crazy that people are happy that Nick Madrigal got hurt. Or it feels bad for Nick Madrigal, getting him maybe a spot in a new position in a new role for a new team. And then very first inning, very first play he made, came in on the ball, tried to barehand the ball, or did. And then I think in the landing we didn't really get a replay from the MASN broadcast from the Nationals, but that's my bet that after he threw the ball, he barehanded the ball. Actually, it was a good try by Nick Madrigal. He really went all out, showing the Mets that he's capable of playing that position, and then all of a sudden this happens. So wait and see. I hope that it's not a long-term injury, but you know he's this could tinker for a while. And I remember I think it was Michael Conforto who dislocated his shoulder. It took a while in 2017, if I remember correctly. So, um, and especially if it's not something that Nick Medical has dealt with earlier, it could be that the muscles around that shoulder have taken a big hit.
Yeah, for those people that are hoping that Jose Iglesias comes back, Andy Martino's reporting, no, that's the Mets are not currently looking outside the organization to fill that role. Just like with Frankie Montas, they're pretty happy, or they're pretty right now at least satisfied with the depth that they have in house. So they're gonna at least ride with that for the time being. So we'll wait and see on what the MRI says for Nick Madrigal, and when it gets reported, it kind of gives the Mets a little bit more of an idea of how they are going to move forward. But injuries like that, I would suspect that Nick Madrigal is going to be out for a while. So that is the latest from the first 3 games in 2 days of New York Mets spring training. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more to discuss as the games pile up, and maybe some guys start to solidify roster spots in the bullpen or on the bench. But uh, they do have a little time to kill, so I figure we can do a little bit of an over under game for some guys in 2025. Now, these are numbers I have come up with, and basically what I did is for this particular stat, I take the last 3 years, add up the total, divided by three, obviously, and that's the average I'm going to use. So I figured one of the big storylines was the Juan Soto home run in spring training. So let's start with Juan Soto 2025 home runs, and the number is 34.5. Are you going to be taking the over or under on 34.5 Juan Soto home runs?
I think that's clearly an over. I think Juan Soto, if healthy, that's always the case. Obviously, will hit closer to 40, closer to what he did last year with the Yankees. He's turning 26 or maybe 27 this year. I'm not 100% sure, but he's in his prime years. So I take the over on that.
Yeah, I hope to be a contrarian at some points with you, and obviously I was a little tempted to take the under in this number just because some of those Yankee Stadium home runs are not going to correlate to City Field, but um, I think Juan Soto will. Oh, what did I say that you want to correct me on?
No, I want to say something. Yes, maybe true, but if you look at Statcast and the expected home runs in City Field, it was actually higher than the amount of home runs Juan Soto hit. So
Oh,
that's one thing I want to point out.
no, all right. Well, either way, I was going to take the over, but you're telling me my thinking was not necessarily in the ballpark or or not maybe as valid
Well,
as some people.
he also plays 81 road games, Henry, so that's not necessarily the case, but just something something to mention.
All right, so we're both taking the over for Juan Soto home runs. How about Francisco Lindor 2025 home runs? That number comes out to 30.5. Over or
Well,
under on Francisco Lindor home runs? 30.5.
for me, this is a tough one because he hit 33 last year.
31
I
the year
do believe,
before.
yeah, exactly. So if you then you should take the over, but I go that he just misses the 30 home run mark. Still having a good year, but hit like 28 or 29.
So this is one where I thought might differ. I thought you were going to take the over because I was probably going to take the under as well. But like I just mentioned, or you talked about, he's hit the 30. He hit 33 last year, 31 the year before. He's in the leadoff spot, which seems to be a comfortable spot for Lindor. So since you took the under, what the hell? I'll take the over just so we can have just so we can differ on this one. And obviously, if he hits over, then that's great.
Well, it's one thing that crossed my mind after I said under, unfortunately, is that he will hit in front of Soto. So he will probably get his fair share of pitches to hit and get attacked instead of pitchers wanting to face Soto. So uh, probably a stupid answer from my part, but oh well.
Oh well.
We will see how it ends up.
Well, let's see if you can maybe redeem yourself with Edwin Diaz saves in 2025. That number comes in at 28.5. 28.5 saves for Edwin Diaz in 2025. Taking the over or the under?
um, gonna take the under. I think the Mets, if they win, they will probably win fairly big. I don't see a lot of one-run pitching games. I think the Mets offense is too good to, and the pitching will also, the rotation will also have its fair share of blow-ups. So, and I also believe that the other arms the Mets have, the Mets are gonna, rest, maybe pick the spots for Edwin Diaz a little bit more, maybe not being him the conventional ninth inning closer, more like we saw the Mets pick the best spot for Edwin Diaz to be in because they have an AJ Minter, because they have a Ryan Stanek, because they have a Daniel Nunez, even Reed Garrett, all those guys, Jose Butto, all those guys. So I think the Mets are probably trying to get Diaz the three biggest outs more than maybe get the conventional save.
Yeah, I'm going to take the over here. I If anyone is still expecting Edwin Diaz of 2022, I think you're kind of fooling yourself a little bit because the year he had that year was, you're putting that up with some of the greatest release seasons ever. I don't think he gets back to that level, but I think he could get about 29, 30 saves this year. I don't think that's totally out of the question, and I like your rationale for your explanation with some guys like AJ Minter, Ryan Stanek in the bullpen that can have uh, close out games as well. So maybe Diaz in the ninth isn't as big of a necessity as it was back in 2022. But I still think Edwin Diaz is capable of clipping, that 30 mark. I think he could potentially get there. If not, it's probably going to be that 29-ish number. So I'll take the over for Edwin Diaz. I'm taking the over on all of these right now. I'm very positive about these New York Mets, and maybe that's going to maybe when we do our season predictions, standings and whatnot, maybe that's gonna showcase
Mhm.
itself again. So, but we talked about how with Nick Madrigal being hurt, it creates opportunities for guys like Baty and Acuna, for potential roster spots. And we said the same thing too with Frankie Montas being out. It opens the door for maybe a guy like Paul Blackburn to get that rotation spot, or maybe a guy like Tyler McGill. So let's go with Tyler McGill starts in 2025. That number right now, with the average from the last 3 years, is 16 and a half.
Well, poo, damn, 16 and a half. Um, starts, right? So not
Not appearance
appearances.
starts.
Uh, I'm gonna take the slightly under because I think he's also gonna be part of the bullpen at some point. I think with Griffin Canning, with Paul Blackburn, when Montas comes back, and with the trading deadline, I could see him being more of a depth and even maybe a bullpen arm. So I are going. He's getting his fair share, but the 16 and a half is over half of your normal starts, with also in a 6-man rotation. The Mets, I think no starter is going to get to 30 to 32 starts. I think they're probably all going to be the 28, 26 to 28 starts. Um, because of the 6-man rotation, but I also, yeah, like I said, I also see the Mets adding maybe an arm at some point with the trading deadline approaching. So I'm gonna get slightly under. I'm gonna put a number on it. I think it's gonna get 14.
I'm going to take the under as well. I think the big reason is what you just alluded to is the 6-man rotation. It takes a couple starts away from guys who maybe had 32 last year, like a Shamanai. Now, it's like you said, it's going to be maybe more like a 20, 28, something along those lines. So some starts do get chipped away, and I don't think with the 6-man rotation, McGill kind of hits that 16 start benchmark unless maybe there's some injury issues more than Frankie Montas for that rotation, which is certainly possible. I mean, no pitcher. I mean, it's rare that this day and age that a starter makes his full slate of starts in the season. Obviously, the Mets were lucky in that regard last year with some guys like Manaya and Severino, and unfortunately, we're not so lucky with Kodai Senga. But 16 and a half, it felt like a big number to me when I averaged it out. So I was like, nah, I'm going to take the under there for Tyler McGill starts in 2025. All right. We'll finish with this one. Ryan Stanek 2025 relief appearances. The three, add up the last 3 years of relief appearances. The number comes out to 59 and a half.
I'm gonna take the over. He's a workhorse. I'm gonna, and also with the Mets having a 6-man rotation, they also have a 7-man bullpen. So um, I see Ryan Stanley get a little over that 59.5 appearances this year. He's a workhorse. He can do it.
I'm taking the over as well, just for the reason you said with a 6-man rotation. There's one less guy in that bullpen. I'm kind of pissed I was going second in a lot of these because a lot of the things I was thinking of you said. So now it's like I'm copying you. But that was my main thought behind the taking the over in this is, um, one less arm in that bullpen. He's probably gonna get called on a little bit more, and we kind of saw last year too, particularly in the postseason. I know the postseason is a different animal than the regular season, but he was out there a lot, and so I don't think he's one of those guys where he pitches 2 days and he needs a day, or pitches 2 days and needs 2 days to recuperate. Whatever. He seems like he's a guy that can. Um, Not rubber arm esque, but a guy who If you call on him, um, he'll come in and hopefully do a pretty good job. And he did a very good job in the postseason. So I think Ryan Stanek will definitely be over that 59 and a half and probably close to that mid 60s range. If well, maybe not if higher with one less arm in that bullpen. So we'll run through these one more time. Juan Soto, 2025 home runs, 34 and a half. We both took the over. Francisco Lindor, 2025 home runs, 30 and a half. You took the under, I took the over. Edwin Diaz saves in 2025, 28 and a half. You took the under, I took the over. Tyler McGill, 2025 starts, 16 and a half. We both took the under. Ryan Stank, 2025 relief appearances, 59 and a half. We both took the over. So those are the over-unders for today. We'll have more coming your way, obviously, before the season starts, but we'll get some of those out there. And I'm keeping track. I have them written down on the doc, so we can go back in October and or hopefully maybe more November, and we can look back and see how right we were.
Yeah, I'm mostly not great at these type of things, so it probably will be you.
Well, at least you don't. At least we don't have anything on the line. Not going to lose anything if I beat you or
No,
if you beat me or
no.
whatever. So just
We could always do that for a small thing, but that we can always debate that. So yeah, we don't lose millions of dollars or something around with this. So it's for fun.
yes,
Um, and kudos to you, Andrew, for preparing this. I'm mostly not giving you the flowers about all the other things, mostly saying that I am the one that gives the information and you're just sitting there with your headphones. But good job, Andrew. Um, yes, and also I want to add better a good copy than that you say something stupid to yourself. So copying me is always smart.
no, you said something nice, and then you had to give yourself all the love and make my intelligence or insult my intelligence. And so well, before you insult me anymore, I think this is a great place to end today's episode. So, like we said, 3 games down. Obviously, a lot more to go in spring train, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to talk about. And we will certainly do that when the time calls for it. But we'll end today's episode here. So, Corne, thanks a lot for joining us, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Talk later. Let's go play Tidwell.
There we go. This has been episode number 60 of the Queen's Connection, a production of Patent Sports Creative. Make sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen, Spotify or YouTube. And make sure to like and follow us on social media. We're on Facebook and Elon's website. Just search the Queen's Connection. So thanks a lot for listening. We'll talk to you soon and enjoy this week of spring training action.